Well, tonight on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, there is a article we want to kind of go over real quick, and I'm glad to be back. I just got back to the United States as of yesterday morning from my trip from South Africa. So I'm definitely ready to jump back into this podcast and deal with these issues and problems that I had to take definitely a break from. Now, we're going to look at an article that was written by a Antjuan Seawright on the Griot, and it says, beware of stories spreading misinformation about black men being fed up with Joe Biden and the Democrats. Now, this is Mr. Seawright here. He is a Democratic political strategist, so he is biased all the way around, and he's going to write an article like this. He's the founder and CEO of Blueprint Strategy, LLC. He's a CBS News political contributor and a senior visiting fellow at the Third Way. That's who Mr. Seawright is. So I just want to give you a little background on him as we go through this for sure. He says as much time as he spent talking with local, state, and national elected leaders, stakeholders, grassroots organizers, and party officials, he spent even more hosting, it said, and participating in events in barbershops and beauty salons, churches, community centers, engaging everyday folks across America, where he's listening to a lot more than he's talking. He's even written a few articles here and there about the importance of the black vote, particularly black men. He said, but an article that he read the other day didn't remind him. He said, as he's often argued that black voters are the most consequential voting bloc in America, yet, let me stop there. They're never prioritized like they're consequential. So why y'all keep saying that? See, notice these Democrat political strategists never go there and say, we're consequential, yet we're never made a priority. They never say that because they get their checks from the Democrat Party or any of these political consulting organizations, and yet the black Americans don't get anything. But yet we are always told we need to vote. We're always told that we're being misinformed because, telling people that, constantly telling them you're dumb. Notice they never write articles saying white Americans are misinformed, misinformation campaigns against white Americans. No, they never write those kind of articles. And beyond with you, a lot of them are more misinformed than black folks could ever be. Seriously. Especially a lot of them folks in them rural areas. My Lord. But you never see articles about misinformation, disinformation campaigns against white voters. Always black voters. And why you say that against black voters when they say, you know what? I don't know if I really want to vote Democrat, man. I just don't know. Just questioning it. All of a sudden, some Russians had done you something. Somebody, oh my God, these podcasts. Because in America, they have told you black Americans, you can only vote one way and one way only. Because we have a default setting for you as black Americans, and you get out of that default setting, we're going to say you're dumb, saying you're being misinformed. We're going to blame everybody else. We blame white Russians because, hey, black people can't think for themselves, so the white Russians are doing it, or the people on the podcast are doing it. Do you understand how insulting it is when they keep saying that you're dumb, that you can't think for yourself? What you have a brain for, right? Well, let's continue. Continue to say that black men are positioned to be the most critical swing vote in the 2024 election. Instead, he said it further illustrates how quickly misinformation spread in our community, how damaging that misinformation can be. And the majority of the misinformation comes from the Democrat Party and Democrat media. Let's call it what it is. Y'all never tell the truth about black people's condition. You never tell the truth that black people suffer more in Democrat-ran cities and states than any other place. You have a sanctuary cities for migrants, but you don't have a sanctuary city for black Americans. Why is that? Just a good question, right? Now, he continues to say, as he wrote in August, it's clear that voters of color, and anyone using the term voters of color, people of color, minorities, we already know what that's about, right? See, that's the thing. You can't talk to black Americans without even knowing how black Americans think on certain terminology. It is the most insulting thing in the world to call a black person people of color, but you don't say the people of no color. You don't say that about them, but everybody got to be put in this people of color category. You're saying white is more important and all those other people who are non-white, they ain't people of color. No, we're never going to accept that. So you as a black man, sir, To use that term, voters of color, that's disrespectful. Now, you continue to say particularly black men, it's all the number one target for misinformation, disinformation, and voter suppression. And the experts tell us that it's only going to get worse in 2024. So basically what you're saying is black men can't think for themselves. Black men can't see anybody that's trying to trick them. It's going to, somebody imaginary going to stop black men from getting out their house and they want to vote. Like that is, y'all Democrats don't realize that black men see through y'all. We see how y'all really think about us. Y'all really think about us in a way white racists think about us. Even you as a black man are talking about us like white racists. Basically what you're saying is black people have low IQs. And because we have low IQs, we can easily be misinformed. Someone easily can use disinformation on us and use voter suppression tactics on us because we have a low IQ. So we're going to believe anything. You see where that goes? See, y'all talk about the upfront racists. They're going to say you have a low IQ. But what about these left-wing racists who's using saying the same thing, but using bigger words to do it? We catching on to y'all. I told y'all. See, that's why y'all don't like people like myself. This is why y'all don't invite me to the black events. Not because I wouldn't go, but because y'all know what I'm going to tell y'all. That's why I always say I literally have to go overseas to get more love than some people give me love in the country. Now, I'm not talking about my brothers and sisters in the streets. No. A lot of my brothers and sisters in the streets give me love. But I'm talking about a lot of you black folks. And you know who I'm talking about. Now, let's say he says, before we go any further, let me make it absolutely clear that I don't pretend to speak for all black men, much less the entire black community. He said that would be more than a little insulting. Listen, I'd rather you speak for the community instead of you insulting black men, saying we have a low IQ. Trust me, I prefer you to do that. Say you speak for us, right? At least that part is not insulting to me. He said, furthermore, anyone who spends even a little time in a barbershop will tell you that there's some real frustration out there and even more confusion. He said, yes, thanks to President Biden and the Inflation Reduction Act, prices are starting to go down. Where? My light bill haven't went down. My natural gas bill haven't went down. The gas prices haven't went down. The food prices never went down. What are you talking about? He continues to say, but let's be honest, all you need to do is go to the grocery store and you'll see the affordability crisis. Prices are still high and people are struggling. Y'all, let me tell y'all something. I just got back from South Africa. I got to see right in that time period, in that 10 days, what our food prices used to be. Let me give you an example. So in the grocery store, you can go buy a package of lamb. Listen, not ground meat, lamb. Converted to the US dollar, $3.14 for a pound of lamb. I saw a McDonald's. I said, I don't eat that place, but I said, let me go see what the prices are in this place. A Big Mac combo, $3.21. We was eating, me, Brother Sharif, Kellen, having appetizer, the main course dinner, and a dessert. On average, I was only spending $40 for all three of us in nice restaurants. And when I kept seeing that, it don't matter how many people they even got invited sometime, even a real nice restaurant, the bill came, with 6 people. I think 6, 7 people. The bill was like $70. And when I kept realizing that about what I was paying, I said that right there, that food prices is what's siphoning the money out of families. Food prices. We're not going to talk about the regular bills, food prices. What has the Inflation Reduction Act has done to food prices? And let me tell y'all something. The federal government has control over everything. Don't you let them say we can't do nothing about the prices. That's a lie. They have regulation power. They can regulate prices if they want to. They can fine people for putting things too high if they want to. They can set it back to 90s prices if they want to based on laws and fines, etc. They can do that, but they choose not to. I don't want to hear that about, we can't do nothing about the prices. It's inflation. No. It's because y'all want to make money. And y'all want to bleed the American people dry of all their money. That's really what it is. And because American people is not willing to take a stand and just deal with it, the price is going to continue to go up and up and up and up. It don't matter who's in office. But let's continue. But you talking about this Inflation Reduction Act, please. Y'all shouldn't even throw that in nobody's face at this point, not just black people, but anybody. He continues to say he get that. In fact, he said, I can identify with it because I'm pretty frustrated myself. The fact is that when Democrats hold a small majority like we do now in the Senate, Republicans can still use archaic rules and the filibuster to block major legislation. He said that's exactly what they did with the President Biden's Build Back Better plan and John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and it's pull your hair out by the roots frustrating. Well, let's talk about the filibuster. You know, the filibuster is a Senate rule. It's not a constitutional law. And there were times they got rid of filibuster. Oh, like the Asian hate crime bill. They threw that away. You understand? So don't give me that about no filibuster. Don't give me that. Because since the Democrats are in power, they can throw away that rule if they want to. My opinion, you should never have a filibuster. Well, what if a particular party is in majority and if they can't filibuster? No. I don't agree to filibuster. What's the point of having power as a particular party if the minority party can stop you from passing legislation? Well, that means they just need 60 votes in the Senate to prevent a filibuster. No. Majority rule. They don't have that in the House. They don't have it in the House. And the filibuster a lot of times has been used to try to stop legislation to help black people. There's two things I don't agree with. I don't agree with the filibuster and I don't agree with the Electoral College. I agree with the popular vote, but I don't agree with that. And if you study it, the Electoral College allows these rural states to have more power than what they should. It should be the popular vote that votes the president, just like it's the popular vote when you vote for your mayor, the city council, etc. Now, he continues to say some folks are frustrated, some are angry, some are confused, some are just aren't feeling this election at all. He said he get that. He said, but we can't let this be an excuse to let this kind of misinformation seep into the ecosystem and communities or the ballot box. It's not misinformation, sir, when people can't afford anything. And when they look at the party in power or the president in power being Democrat, how much more informed can you be on that? He said, for example, they said the article argues that black men are frustrated with President Biden and Democrats because they have failed to deliver on things like student loan, debt relief, police reform, and voting rights. I know you're not talking to black men. The average black man don't have student loan debt. Sorry, they don't. Police reform, President Biden said he was going to do a commission on police reform, and the moment he scrapped that, he said Congress needs to handle that. That's what he said immediately. Voting rights, bruh, I've been having my voting rights since I was 18. Nobody's doing nothing to my voting rights. I live in a Republican state, Texas. My voting rights aren't threatened. What are you talking about? The average black person in America worries about what's important: the economy, their job, and getting jobs, their ability to do business, their ability to get business loans and home loans, to take care of our families. We just want to be self-sufficient, not be sabotaged. That's what black people are asking. Reparations. That's very important. An anti-black hate crime bill. We do not think about the student debt, any of that mess. We don't think about that. But let's continue with Mr. Antjuan here says. He said the reality is that President Biden has delivered. He has signed more than 24 executive actions to deliver $146 billion in student debt relief for 4 million Americans. He said they must have forgotten how President Biden cut undergraduate loan payments in half and helped drop monthly payments for millions of borrowers down to zero. He said he must not know that earlier this month, President Biden laid out a new plan that would expand the student debt relief to more than 30 million Americans. The majority of black Americans don't have student debt. They don't. So what about them? He said, of course, none of this would be necessary if GOP officials hadn't led the charge pushing the right-wing Supreme Court to block Biden's plan to erase $400 billion in student debt, forgiving the debt of nearly all 40 million federal student loan borrowers. Let me tell you something. If they do that, that's going to be a wealth transfer to white America, not black America. Think about that. White Americans already have a leg up based on the system. If they wipe out all their debt, sure, they can wipe out black people's, but they wipe out their debt, they already going to get jobs they don't qualify for. They don't get loans that they don't qualify for just because I think he's a good guy. We've covered stories where people that worked in the banks who are white say that when black people come in with 700 plus credit score, make more money than even white Americans, they are a lot of times don't even get the loan. But a white person who have a lower credit score, who don't make as much money as the black American, they will say, well, he looks like a good guy. He looks like he's going to pay it back. But they never say that about black Americans. See, that's the thing that we're dealing with in this country. So I do agree with them not wiping it out. Nobody forced you to take that loan. They say you take it, you get your job, pay it back. If you didn't want that loan, you didn't have to take it. You could have went to community college and tried to do what you can do to pay it. Now, you continue to say, isn't that delivering on student loan debt relief? Say, what about police reform? I hear you asking. Well, despite, you say the article tells us, President Biden has delivered there too. Let's start with the fact that in October 2022, Biden announced that he was pardoning all federal offenses for simple marijuana possession and calling on governors in every state to do the same. He also started the process for broader decriminalization and rescheduling of marijuana under federal law. You say, but that doesn't matter in this article, does it? No, because the majority of black Americans aren't in jail. Much as y'all like to put it out there that we are, the majority of black Americans, or black men in particular, aren't in jail. So no. He continues to say, how about when President Biden banned chokeholds and no-knock warrants on federal law enforcement? Does that count? No, because the majority of black Americans aren't engaging in federal law enforcement. The average person isn't arrested by the FBI. The average person isn't dealing with the U.S. Marshals, right? But what happens? The average person is dealing with a city cop, a county cop, a state cop. His executive order had nothing to do with those. So no, what is that? What is that about? No, tell the truth, sir. You talking about misinformation? There you go. He said, what about signing the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act to make lynching a federal crime for the first time in history, or creating a national database to track law enforcement misconduct? Every time someone is found on a tree in this country today, local law enforcement say they unalive themselves. They never say what it really is, and we know what it is. So how could that law really work in local law enforcement is constantly saying, oh, they did it to themselves? He said maybe President Biden should direct the Department of Justice to go after these brutal cops in departments and cities like Mount Vernon, Louisville, Phoenix, and Minneapolis. But wait, President Biden did that too. And how has the lives of black Americans in those cities improved? How? The system with police is rotten from the bottom up. You can't just target one city or a few cities. You literally have to turn the system itself upside down and rewrite it for it to be a system that's right for everybody, right? And the only reason the police isn't doing some things they're doing is because of what black Americans did in the streets. Because y'all wasn't going to do that. You understand? So please, you cannot pat Biden on the back about no police. And he said, don't get me started about voting rights, because in August 2021, less than a year after the election, the Democrat-controlled House of Representatives passed the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, the most comprehensive measure to strengthen voting rights since 1965. Every single House Republican voted against it. And once in the Senate, the GOP finally got rid of it with some archaic procedural tactics the segregationists had used in the 50s and 60s. Later that month, Democrats tried again, repackaging the initiative as a Freedom to Vote Act. Republican senators pulled the same old trick again. Most of the time when we hear Democrats talking about voting rights, you're talking about finding ways for migrants to vote. We've been having our voting rights, and we've been having it for a long time. And let's call it what it is. We have never really got anything like we wanted from the ballot. Everything we have ever gotten, just let's talk about history in America. We've gotten when we had our feet to the pavement and our feet to somebody's butt. That's usually when we got something. Every time we try to vote, we get finessed. I'm not saying not to vote. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, if we look at it, how we've been voting for the past, 50 plus years, We've been getting finessed. Everybody else been benefiting off our vote, but we haven't been getting anything like we should. He continues to say, but importantly, President Biden and the Democrats are still fighting with the latest version stuck in committee because the Republican-controlled House won't even let it come to the floor for a vote. Still, the article would have us believe that President Biden and Democrats haven't made voting rights a priority. That's not only wrong, it's dangerous because it rewards Republicans, the ones fighting against voting rights. You say, well, we ain't buying it. Once again, when I go to the store to buy food in this country, which the food is horrible, the food has chemicals and preservatives that's giving people all kinds of sicknesses and diseases. It's the truth. 90% of the sicknesses in this country is linked to food. That's what our doctors in America has said. Now, why Biden hasn't regulated the food? Well, you talking about Biden talking about he want to get rid of things like cancer. He can start by the food, but he hasn't done that. I'm not thinking about voting rights when I need to put food on the table for my children. That's not what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking, do I have enough money to pay for this expensive buying food that's overpriced and it's not even good food? At least in places like South Africa, they regulate their food where you can't put certain things in it. No high fructose corn syrup, actually cane sugar, like it's supposed to be. You say the article criticizes it for not delivering economically, but while the writer admits that under President Biden, black unemployment is at a record low, he ignores that black entrepreneurship is at a record high with new black-owned small businesses opening at the fastest rate in a generation. Say who helped secure roughly $100 billion in federal contracts for small disadvantaged and black-owned businesses. Biden. He said, who launched new efforts to aggressively combat housing discrimination, protect black-owned home values, knowing that along with education, home values are the biggest factor in building black wealth. Black Americans can't even buy a home. Let's start there. Biden has the power through FHA to give home loans at low rates. He could say 1% down for black Americans. He could say that. Or just say, of course, not just black Americans. Of course, it's government, so we have to say all Americans. He can do that. Has he done that? No. If he wants to help black Americans with homes, that's one area he don't need Congress to do it on. He could do it himself. So I don't want to hear that at all. Because the home buying rate of black Americans isn't much different than it was pre-Civil Rights Act. He said, who passed the Inflation Reduction Act and fought to expand the child tax credit and cut child poverty in half? He says, Biden, a credit is not going to put food on the table or pay these bills, sir. He said, understand these aren't just numbers and statistics we're talking about. These are people's lives. He said, these are families that are able to afford the mortgage payment because we're fighting housing discrimination. This is the new restaurant in your neighborhood because it got a small business loan and the family's able to pay for the child care because we expanded the child tax credit. This isn't a game. The article wants us to believe that President Biden and Democrats aren't repairing infrastructure, fixing dilapidated school buildings, or doing anything to invest in the black community. So I guess President Biden invested $1.2 trillion to repair our infrastructure with the bipartisan infrastructure law was just a figment of our imagination. You don't get credit for doing a function of government. Democrats. Fixing your infrastructure is not to help black people. That's to help the country. That's what we pay taxes for. We pay taxes so you can keep the roads, the bridges, the airports, the power grid, the internet, all different things that we need to operate a nation. That's why we pay taxes. You don't get a pat on the back for trying to do your job. Don't let them play that game with you. See, that's something for black people. No, that's something for everybody in this country because that's your job. So no, we don't give you a pat on the back for that crap. Sorry, we don't. He said, I guess securing $130 billion to help our schools safely reopen, ensuring high poverty school districts and schools are protecting from funding cuts, and investing $7 billion in our historically black college and universities doesn't count. I guess $15 billion to replace lead water lines in poor communities doesn't count. No, it don't, because that's a function of government. Making sure our schools are right, making sure there's no lead water lines. That's your function of government. Stop throwing in our face a function of government. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Don't let them, listen, they don't tell that to white people. Have you noticed that? Hey, white America, at least we did something for your schools. At least we did this. At least we look at the new lights that's on your highway. We did that. At least we did that for you, white people in rural America. Notice they don't tell them that to come out and vote. What do they tell white America? They want to know about jobs. They want to know about the money. What's going to happen with the money in their communities? But to us, hey, that street light, that new street light that's in your neighborhood, black people, that's what we did for you. Now you can see when you drive down the road. See, we did something for you. Once again, it's racist. It's very racist because they're talking to black people with a racist stereotype saying you have a low IQ. This is what you tell the people that they think they have a low IQ, because simple things like that get them mesmerized. He continues to say more black families have health insurance right now than any point in history, and we passed the first major gun safety law in nearly 30 years. Does that matter? No, it don't. A lot of black Americans, they can get insurance if they want, and they can choose not to get it. Obamacare is high as hell, so it's not affordable. People ain't not asking about no gun safety laws, because one thing I'm going to tell y'all, these folks in America, you know who I'm talking about? They will never let y'all take that away from them. So please. And y'all got all the laws on the books you want to. That didn't stop no Dylan Roof or anybody else like him. He said, remember what life was like in January 2021? Do you remember how bad things were at the height of the pandemic? He said that was the America the Biden presidency inherited. Fast forward today, and you have to agree that by any measure, the turnaround has been dramatic. We had made real progress over the past 3 years. And when you compare it to what we lived through from the past 4 years before, it's been remarkable. Sorry, in the Trump administration, food prices wasn't this high, bills wasn't this high, gas price wasn't this high. So I don't know what you're talking about. I'll take that Trump era any day over this mess we got today. Y'all have fumbled the ball. Let's call it what it is. He said a lot has been done, and of course we still have plenty of work left to do. No, you gonna ruin the country if you get more time. He said I also understand that there are some folks who would like to pull out the "what has Biden done for us" talking point on the radio or their podcast. And frankly, some of those folks, he said, are people I listen to and people I like. But just because a personality said it on a show you like doesn't make it true. No, let me say this. When a person on a podcast, a show, says it and it resonates with thousands and millions of people, why is it resonating? If it wasn't true, if Biden did something for black America and they say, man, Biden really did something for us, and someone from a podcast say he didn't do nothing, the people in the comment section that got common sense would say that's not true, because look, man, I see it in my everyday life. Let me tell you something. A president don't do nothing until mainstream America see it. It don't matter what the corporations get or the investors get or the hedge funds. Yeah, they doing great, but look at what's happening to Main Street America, or black America in particular. If Main Street is suffering, then he didn't do nothing. Bottom line. And for sure, as black Americans, he didn't do anything. He didn't. Everything you talk about, I can't listen. And Biden did something for black America in particular. I would definitely say, hey, yeah, Biden did this, this, and this. I'm not going to lie on somebody. No. But I'm also not going to sit up here and try to finesse black Americans and try to get them to go and just give a free vote. Because at this point, he's the president of the migrants. At this point, he cares more about migrants. He cares more about foreign wars in Ukraine and all, the Israel-Palestine. He's more worried about that. He's not worried about black America or the rest of America. He's not worried about that. I'm a firm believer of this. Your actions speak more than your words. And his actions, ladies and gentlemen, is this. He's not focused on us, and for surely not focused on black America. So no, it's not misinformation. Sir, you're the one actually putting out misinformation, trying to gaslight and convince black people functions of government is something for them. But you never do that to white America. And that is what's more insulting than anything else.